Everyone, we do a different kind of guide today. We're going to try to talk on the thought process behind our attunements and kind of what you need to be thinking about when you're starting to attune stuff. So first is the Anvil. You usually won't find this Anvil until you get an NG1 or 2. Then from there you start finding your blueprints. You'll get level 30. You'll be able to max out all your skills depending on the level of your guild hall. Once that's done, you're gonna start having excess stars. With those excess stars, you want to start looking at attuning some of your items. So we're on the priest right now, and it's going to be geared towards solo play. A couple of items required to start, and I've talked about this in another video, but when you're rolling the shop, you're looking for a Ring of Transmutation, Amulet of Vengeance, or a King's item. I generally like to get Amulet of Kings or Armor of Kings, followed by Scepter of Kings. So the thought process there is we want to attune Amulet of Vengeance because bringing it up from a 10% chance to a 20% chance, because it acts as if there's 2 of these items in your inventory instead of 1, is going to become a huge deal. So you can stay in combo more, and with our drink setup, it's all about staying in combo to deal more damage. So that's one key piece. The second key piece is the Ring of Transmutation. These are actually the only 2 required pieces. So this is the Ring of Transmutation. 25% of the mana, or the health we lose, is taken as mana instead. And then we double it. So 50% of the incoming damage is sent to the mana. So if we were to take 140 damage hit, 70 would go to life, 70 would go to mana, and with that we would also, so that's the 70 to life and 70 to mana because of the Divine Protection. But if we're using the Ring of Transmutation in conjunction with that, we're going to be gaining mana from health we lose. So the 70 health we lose will also be gaining back 35 mana. So at the end of that cycle, we've lost 70 health and 35 mana from taking 140 damage hit. And that's going to be really nice. So there's a couple things to think about with all this. Health regen is tripled. So we're going to get lots of regen, lots of leech. Anytime we gain health, it's tripled. I think it's anytime. It may not include potions. Regens health, or regains health 20% more effectively from all sources. So actually it should work on potions as well. But potions may have a special modifier to make it not work. But anyway, those are the 2 items that are required. Ring of Tea just essentially gives you even more mana, so when you're taking damage, you're not just losing all your mana instantly, waiting for it to regen. As you try to regen, it's instantly taken away, and you actually can't cast any of your skills to regain health. So that keeps it where you can keep your mana high and your health high. So those are the first 2 attunements we did. I would say those are the required attunements to actually play this build. If you're trying to do this build in NG2 and maybe haven't found the recipe yet for Amulet of Vengeance, then you can get away with not having it, but you're going to be in combo 50% less than you would if you had this attuned. So it's going to be a big difference, which is reducing your damage by a lot. But I'd say the Ring of Transmutation is absolutely required. It should be your first attunement. So moving on from there, I usually like to use the King set for either Amulet of Kings for the resist. It makes Act 4 and Act 5 a lot easier, because there's some runs where you just don't find this. So starting with it is really beneficial. You can also go Armor of Kings, which will help you more in the earlier acts. It still helps in the later acts. And I think it's generally, this is going to be a general guide, so it's generally speaking, it's good to start with a piece of Kings. So as you're running through your run, you only have to find 2 pieces of Kings to get your set. So an ideal start would be Amulet of Kings, Amulet of Vengeance, and Ring of Transmutation as your starting items. And you want most of your starting items to be attuned, especially if you're always going to get these same 3 items. You always want them attuned so you have the same power starting off. From there, we wanted Armor of King. Well, you can start thinking about the Anvil. So it cost 18 stars to attune a blue item, which is roughly 2 levels. 9 stars to attune a green item, which is roughly 1 level, and 3 stars to attune a white item, which lets you do 3 attunements per level pretty much. So the rarity of the items matter a lot because you're going to find these white items more. So if there's something really beneficial, it's kind of nice to do the white items as soon as you can because you're going to be using these items the most. Now the green items are kind of in between. When you find this, you definitely want to double it. Like, most of our damage is magical. Ignoring 30% instead of 50% of the enemy's resistance is going to be huge for us. So when we find this, it works out really nicely. It's kind of a swingy item, but you can live without it. And then we get into these items up here that are a lot rarer. You're not going to find them every run. And any run you don't find them, it's kind of a waste of stars for that run. Because you could have done, 6 other white items, or a green item, and a couple other white items, or some combination, and you're going to find those more often. So you want to get kind of your base done of what you're going to be using at the start of each run, and then some other like substitute items. Like, this would be a substitute item for Amulet of Kings if I wanted to make the first boss easier, or maybe some of the earlier acts, or if I don't have a lot of money and I find this setup where there's Armor of Kings in the shop with the Ring of Transmutation, and then we craft Amulet of Vengeance, because we always need Amulet of Vengeance, and we always need Ring of Tea, so we'd craft one of these other items. So you attune the needed items first, then from there, which are those 2, after those 2 items I did Slippery Cloak and Sandals of Swiftness. I would say Slippery Cloak is the best attunement for the stars. Brings a 6 evasion to 12 evasion, which is more evasion you can get from any one item by itself. And then Sandals of Swiftness is second best, I would say. So for 6 stars, you can get, 12, 18 evasion, which is huge. And these are white items, so you're going to find them all the time. I'm a more defensive-oriented player, so there's some other items I've done. But I basically continued on doing the rest of the evasion set, because anytime we can just completely ignore an instance of damage, the better. So we started off doing our required, then we moved into the evasion items, doing Duelist Edge last, because it's going to be the rarest one for us to actually find. From there, we did the stun items. I would recommend the stun items next for any build. Blackjack helps a lot with keeping enemies stunned, so you don't take hits all at the same time. And the same goes for Gladiator's Net. So brings your 20% chance to disarm to 40%, and then you have another 20% chance to stun. So you're going to be taking some hits, and that's going to go to your mana, to your health. You're going to get it back. You're going to be using your Consecrated Ground, gain as much as you can. Use your aura when you need to, and some of the other times you're going to be reducing the damage just by incapacitating the enemies through stuns, through disarms, etc. So I usually have more issues in Acts 4 and 5 with resistance, so that's why I normally start with Amulet of Kings. So I kind of went down and got all of the resist I could find and all the armor. So this is armor and health. You see we got that, but we haven't gotten this straight health because armor is just a better stat than health. It gives you more effective health in conjunction with additional health. So for instance, you need both. You can't have 1,000 health and 0 armor because your effective health is only going to be 1,000. But if you have 50% physical damage reduction and 500 health, you still have 1,000 effective health, but that's a lot less stats to get. It's so much easier to get a balanced amount of stats. So what you want to do is, as your armor increases, your health wants to increase. As your health increases, you want your armor to increase, because the stats will jump above each other and which one actually gives you more effective health. So that's why I'm picking. But when you look at this list, you can see that some items only give health, some items only give armor, and there's way more items that give you health than there are armor and resist. And since your resists are getting knocked down each NG you achieve, I want to basically get the maximum potential of armor and resist I can get from these items. So if we go look through what items we have now, Steady Greaves, health and armor. This was kind of the last one I did because it actually has health. Some of the other ones you'll see are just armor. So Great Helm, this is also a lower priority just because it's not part of a set. See, Heavy Gauntlets are just health, we ignored it. Curious Box, this is kind of an interesting one because it is 10 health, 10 mana, 6 attack, 6 skill power, 4 armor, 4 resist. That's just a lot of stats for one item. So it's not the best at any one stat. Like 10 health, you can get 30 health from those gloves. 6 attack, you can get way more attack easily. Same with skill power. 2 armor, 2 resist. It's just everything together is a lot of stats, and finding it just helps you be well rounded. So we got Curious Box. It's also just an item that gives you armor and resist, and there's a limited amount you can get from items, so I want to make sure I can get the most I can get. So we look, we have Chainmail, so we have 10 armor there. Boots of Speed we did just a little later. I would say I can even get rid of this one and it wouldn't change the gameplay at all. So you could just have 20 attack power instead, or you can have, you know, more damage, more chance to block, more health. I actually think this is probably not worth taking this early, but it's one thing you kind of have to evaluate it for yourself, depending on your playstyle, how you play. If you notice you're struggling against magic resist, you should go for magic resist. If you're struggling against things that do physical like damage, you should try to get more armor. If you're lacking in damage, you should try to get more damage items. And you kind of have to just understand what you're lacking, what your character needs, identify your character's weakness, and try to fill in that gap as best you can. It's not always going to be that easy because you start running out of attunements, and at some point there's just nothing you can do, and you have to figure out another way to beat the next NG. So generally speaking, when you're attuning items, you want to get the 3 items you want to start with and make sure those are attuned. Then you want to attune your Trickster set, your evasion items, to get as much evasion as possible. Then I'd move into your stun items and your disarm item, just to even reduce the damage you're taking even more. After that, I would start getting all the armor and resist items you have, followed by a mixture of either damage or effective health, depending on what you're struggling with. Some classes are a little different. This is just like a priest. Most of the ones I follow, or most of my attunements are the same, as far as you get the required items first, followed by the evasion items, followed by the stun items. Then you start getting into different builds. So after this first 3 setups are complete, I would start looking at different avenues. So like some characters will go for their primary attack, critting more. If this isn't one of your standard items, you start going crit on your skills. And from there, like, some characters want more health earlier, some want more crit, some may need more leech or more regen or just more damage. So from there you have to evaluate for yourself what's going to help your character the most. And just knowing what kind of damage you do. So like Stinger, your physical damage ignores 20% of the enemy's armor. No brainer for the priest that Wand of Spell Piercing is more damage. But when you look at something like the Paladin, Wand of Spell Piercing actually helps you do more damage than Stinger. They're pretty close, but his split is more magic damage than physical damage when you're using the drink setup that I'm using. So that's kind of some thoughts and ideas behind it. A lot of it's just knowing what's needed for each of your characters, how everything interacts, and then it kind of goes into your playstyle and what kind of build you're going for. But generally speaking, required items, evasion items, stun items, and then I would go defensive items and then offensive items. Alright, but that's pretty much it for the Anvil. If you're missing blueprints or anything like that, I have a video on farming blueprints. I already have all the blueprints when I started the video, but the video works for blueprint farming, dye farming, or drink farming. So if you need any of those, you can do it for free and cheaply. Just farm it out. It just takes some time. You'll eventually find all your dye, all your blueprints, and all your rare drinks, which will help you progress past NG2. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.